If you are feeling nervous about the Colorado Springs real estate market, I assure you, you are not alone. Recently, we've had questions from actually quite a few people about what's going on. What if the economy tanks? How are the tariffs going to impact the building materials? And how's that going to impact new build costs? With so much of Colorado Springs being tied up with our military, how do budget cuts or any sort of layoffs impact that sector of the economy? These are actually really great concerns and completely understood. And today we're just going to talk about them, right? So let's break down the biggest fears surrounding the local real estate market here in Colorado Springs. And hopefully by the end, we'll give you a little bit of clarity on the chaos that's going around out there. So let's just dive in. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Mark with My Front Range Living, and Amber and I are local real estate agents here in Colorado Springs. And we're trying to bring you as much value as is humanly possible to help you make Colorado Springs feel like home. And so as we talk about all these questions and everything that's going on, let's talk about the economy. And yeah, the economy is very, very uncertain right now. And I mean, what to say? Gas is expensive. Groceries are expensive. Of course, we've all heard all the nonsense around eggs and all that other good crap. There's just, housing, the cost of housing, the cost of insurance, everything seems to be so freaking expensive. What's going on with our economy? And let's be honest. The political shifts, everything else, there's a lot of uncertainty in that space. And when we talk about interest rates, when we talk about things of that nature, there's really nothing solidified as it relates to the housing industry. We're all in this hurry up and wait mode. We all want to see what's going on. We all want to be a part of the housing industry, but there's just too much uncertainty. So a lot of people are hesitating to buy a house right now because of that uncertainty. And I mean, the reality of it is, historically, Colorado Springs is not going to back down too much from an economic standpoint. We've usually been really, really good because of our diverse economy. And yeah, as we mentioned before, the military is there, but even that's being impacted right now. So we have the military, we have the aerospace, we have tech, but the reality of it is we're still waiting to see what current policy and the current administration is going to do. And yeah, regardless of how you feel about the administration, you can't deny the fact that there's really not a lot of stability right now with what is going on and what has gone on and how we're going to try and fix that or change that or whatever. So there's just instability. And anytime there's instability, that's rarely, if ever, good for the housing market, especially right now as we see all the layoffs and everything else. I'm going to say Doge. I know that not everybody likes it, but Doge is having an impact as it goes in, and it is saying, hey, we need to make some changes, and that's impacting layoffs and employment and so on and so forth. So those once solid sectors just aren't as rock solid as they used to be, and there's a bunch of uncertainty in that space. So Mark, that's great, but yeah, that's big picture stuff. Tell me about my situation, and I understand that. So while we're waiting for the economy to settle down a little bit, it's not like home prices are going in the opposite direction. We are seeing some increases in that space, and we're seeing it level out a little bit. It's not skyrocketing the way that it once did, but we are still seeing some sustainable growth as it relates to housing values. And so the key is not to look at it from a national standpoint as much as what do my finances look like right now? What's affordability look like for me? All right, so I'm just gonna come out and say it. There's really no easy way to start this segment. Tariffs. I'm all the way over the word tariffs, and I've got a feeling it's just gonna be part of my world for the upcoming several months and in for the foreseeable future. But tariffs are going to have an impact on the housing industry, and I know that sounds a little bit weird, but let's talk about it. Tariffs on construction materials. We actually do import quite a bit of our construction materials as a nation. So steel and timber and all that other good stuff. Having tariffs or additional tariffs on those items are going to drive the price of new builds up. And let's be honest, if a new build is more expensive, that makes the existing homes around those new builds just as, if not more expensive than the new build. So their tariffs are going to have an impact on housing. I mean, some estimates say that it's going to impact a single family home anywhere between $17,000 and $22,000. Now, whether or not you agree with those estimates, it could happen, it could not. But there's no denying the fact that tariffs will have an impact on the housing industry just because of what it costs to build a new home, because that trickles down. We all know how this works. If the builder has to pay more, then that cost is going to get trickled down to the consumer. That means you as a home buyer are going to pay that. So as it costs more to build the house. It costs more to buy the material to get it into the workman's hands. There's a lot of different things going on. So look at it this way. Think of a new car, right? So if brand new cars suddenly became way more expensive to build, right? That's going to make the cost of a used car that much more because people aren't able to buy the new car, so they'll go to used car. Supply and demand, that's what this is. It's the same thing with housing. So it's going to cost more to build the houses. That's going to have a trickle-down effect. So here's the reality. Tariffs, whether they're currently in effect or whether they are proposed tariffs, it's going to have a dramatic impact on the housing industry in addition to all the other factors that we're currently discussing. So budget cuts, potential military cuts, layoffs, things of that nature, like we've already discussed in the sectors of aerospace, tech, and military. If we see that stuff, it's going to have an impact because, as we mentioned, Colorado Springs does have a strong military presence. You look at Fort Carson, you look at Schriever Space Force, you look at Pete, you look at Cheyenne Mountain, you look at the Air Force Academy. All of those installations play a part in our economy here. So along with the military, we have to think about the fact that there are a ton of government contractors. So think aerospace, think tech, think defense. All of those different categories are going to have an impact if there are budget cuts and or layoffs, which I don't want to pontificate in that. So because of these layoffs, let's say that there is a slowdown. People aren't going to hire. There's going to be a lot more people looking. That's going to have an impact on housing. Because, I mean, obviously, if you're not working, you're not going to be able to, A, qualify, let alone afford a new home. So there's a lot of concerns around that as well. So there's going to be fewer homes being sold. People aren't going to be looking for them because they're going to be out of work. They're going to be looking for a job instead of a house. So it's a super valid concern and something we want to keep an eye on here. But for our government employees, the families, if they move here, then we have a great swing of housing. But if they're not moving here, if that job sector slows down a little bit, that's going to impact the demand for housing in Colorado Springs. So despite all of that, it is important to understand Colorado Springs has remained stable for the most part through historical budget shifts. But it is something to keep on your radar as you're looking at the Colorado Springs market. So even though there's been changes in military funding in the past or realignments, Colorado Springs has continued to grow, not only from an economic standpoint, but from a population standpoint. So the key takeaway here is while government-related job fluctuations are a factor, they haven't significantly hurt the housing market in the past. And Colorado Springs, of course, remains an incredible place to live and a place that a lot of people want to move to. Well, Mark, all of this information is delightful, but just give me the freaking numbers as you always do. Let's do that. So let's hop right in. And again, as we always do, it's important to understand these are single-family homes in Colorado Springs, right? It's not the entirety of the Pikes Peak MLS this time. We've narrowed it down to single-family homes in Colorado Springs. So the average home price is up in Colorado Springs. In February of 2025, this year, it was $541,800. Now that's up $41,000 same time, February of 2024, when it was $500,700. So we have seen an uptick in the home values. The median home price, again, that went up as well, almost $20,000. It was $469,500 in February of this year versus $450,000 in February of last year. Now, days on market. Here's something to keep in mind and watch a little bit, right? This is how we try and determine whether or not it's a buyer's market. And that days on market is up. In February of last year, it was 58. It's 63. Now, not a huge jump, but if you'll recall, last summer that started to dwindle a little bit, and it has come back up significantly. So the houses are staying on the market what I consider to be an appropriate amount of time. This is actually a regular real estate market for those of you who have been in it as long as I have. This is what it's supposed to be. Houses sit out there for a little while, sellers are patient, and buyers have a little more leeway. So what do all of those numbers tell us? Well, prices are still going up, like I said. So despite all of that uncertainty, we are seeing an uptick in the prices. Home values have not wavered. Now, I judge that we're going to see that pull back a little bit this year. Not that the prices are going to go down, but it's certainly not going to increase at the same pace that it has been over the last few years. I think largely it's going to be flat. Also, homes are taking a little bit longer to sell, and that means the market's not moving as fast. So again, I believe it's shifting towards a buyer's market if it isn't already there. But homes are still selling at the proper value. So It's obviously a better market for buyers, but it's not a deal breaker market right now for sellers either. It's still an appropriate time to sell. Just have realistic expectations. So again, the reality of it is this data, it's not so much that the market's crashing, nor do I believe that the market's in a free fall. I think that the market is regulating. I think that what we saw over the course of the last 5 years was very atypical. So number one, we have to have enough houses for people who want housing. And we also have to make sure that we're not flooding the market as we did before with so many builds and so on and so forth. Really, this is a very balanced market right now. This is actually where we're supposed to be. What I'm having a hard time with is seeing into the future, the rest of 2025, because there's a lot of indicators that indicate this is probably not going to be the best year for real estate. I mean, so the big question on everybody's mind, Mark, Amber, should I buy a house right now? Should I sell my house right now? And you know what? That's the time that we come in and we have a conversation with you, because it's really a situation dependent kind of a thing. I don't want a blanket statement or anything, but prices are still rising. Now, granted, not at the same rate that they were, like we said, but if trends continue, waiting could mean paying more. So keep that in mind if you're thinking to buy a house. So even if interest rates do drop in the future, home prices likely aren't going to move that much. So as we have come to know him here at My Front Range Living, Big Daddy Jay Powell, our Fed chair, has already said, if they move the rates this year, it's not going to be that often, and it's certainly not going to be that much. So if you're waiting for the interest rates to come down, I really do think to get home affordability to where everybody's talking about, we're looking at least a 1% interest rate drop, and I really don't see that happening this year based on what Big Daddy Powell had to say throughout the first quarter of this year. And it's important to remember that buying a home is a long-term investment. If you're gonna stay in Colorado Springs for a while, buying now could make sense. I mean, if your situation's a little more uncertain or you don't know what's gonna be, renting could be a better option. It just depends. But that's why you have us. You gotta make sure that you reach out. And again, our contact info is in the description of the video down there. You can always hit up our website at myfrontrangeliving.com to get more. And then of course, you've got a phone number for us as well. But trying to time the market perfectly is almost impossible. Rarely, if ever, is it going to happen. If it peaks, you're either right in front of the peak or you're right behind the peak. And when there's a valley, you're either right in front of it or you're right behind it. It's so difficult, if not impossible, to say this is the exact time that the market has peaked or this is the exact moment that the market has tanked. That's not how it's going to happen. So we have to have a conversation with you and see what makes financial sense for you. So again, a ton of uncertainties out there, especially in the real estate market right now. There's rising prices, the uncertainty with the economy and inflation and all the other stuff that's going on right now, the job cuts, yada, yada, yada. But the numbers are giving us a story that we can actually follow. So while homes are taking longer to sell, they're still selling. And the prices of homes, the value of homes continues to increase. So despite concerns about the economy, inflation, and groceries and eggs and all that other crap that they're distracting us with, the cost of living, tariffs, blah, 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 the demand in Colorado Springs remains steady. People are still moving to Colorado Springs, whether that's renting or buying. Because remember, even renting is going to have an impact on the housing market. So again, as we talk about this story, we just want to put a bow on this. We're talking about it as a story, not one thing or this and this and this. If you're thinking about it, the buying or selling, the best way to make sure if it's the right time is to stay informed. Continue to read the story. See what works best for you. Now could be the right time. It may not be the right time, but you have to read the story and you have to make your decision based on your long-term goals, not just all the information and news that you're hearing around you. So we would love to know what you think of the market right now, whether it be nationally or here locally in Colorado and Colorado Springs. So hey, drop your comments below. We would love to hear your thoughts. And we'd also like to know what your biggest concerns are from a real estate standpoint in the market right now. Let's talk. We would love to respond. Make sure you're hitting the comments up and let us know what you think. So hey, thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.